Hello, and welcome back to the Steve and Mark Discuss podcast, where Steve throws a subject open for discussion. I listen, evaluate what he says, and try and give him a response. So, here we go. Over to Steve.
Hi, people, again. So here's a question for you. What do Belgium, Luxembourg, Canada, New Zealand, Spain, the Netherlands, and Colombia all have in common? And the answer is that active euthanasia is legal in these countries. What is active euthanasia? Active euthanasia is when the patient doesn't want to carry on living because normally they have a terminal illness, and the doctors would give them an overdose of morphine or something like that to finish them off. That's active. There is a passive uh, euthanasia where the patient has to be uh, of sound mind. He can refuse treatment, thus uh, allowing him to die. But it's not a case of you take your 95-year-old granny who's got Alzheimer's to the hospital and just say, let her die there. She has to say, I want to die by withdrawing medicine uh, uh, to me so I can be allowed to die. Now, in this list of countries, I was surprised because Switzerland wasn't in the list. And I thought to myself, well, why is that? Why is Switzerland not in the list? Oh, just one thing, that the passive euthanasia, there's a whole gaggle of countries that allow just not touching the patient and letting them die off. So Switzerland was not in this list, and I thought to myself, well, why is that? And apparently, it's illegal to have active euthanasia or passive euthanasia in Switzerland, but it is legal to have assisted suicide. So what's assisted suicide? It's when the patient, he pushes the button to give them that overdose of whatever it is that they take to die. And of course, we all know what Dignitas
Mhm.
is. It's that clinic in Switzerland, where near Zurich, I believe, where where people go to end their days. And it's not simply a case of going there, or it shouldn't be,
Mm.
and just saying I want to end my days, and they do it. You go through a lot of screening, you get a lot of psychological psychological interviews, and to see that you're not that what you're doing, you're being very sure of yourself, what you want to do. Dignitas opened in 1998, and in the first year, 6 people went to have assisted suicide. Not sure if it was at the beginning of 1998 or if it was halfway through or near to the end, but it was only 9, 6 anyway. Then we went through a spate of 5 the next year and 8 the next year. And then it started to take off, and then you got 50, at the height in 2019, 256 people in that year went to have assisted suicide. And the latest record we have is 2021, only 213 went. Normally, people go there, and Dignitas normally only do this if you have a terminal illness. And the interesting thing is that people go there not because of the pain they are suffering, but they go there before that stage of their illness
mm,
kicks in. They want to die under their own dignity. Dignitas is to die with dignity, and
mm,
so they do it under their own rules. There was a curious case in 2003 where a British couple went to Zurich to die. He had epilepsy and she had diabetes, and neither of the two diseases are terminal.
mm,
Uh, it was Robert and Jennifer Stokes from Leighton Buzzard. He was 59, she was 53. Went there and they had assisted suicide. And in the same week, there were another 5 people that had assisted suicide as well. And normally, when you get an assisted suicide, you have to have um, a coroner, and it has to go to the justice to make sure that it was all legal.
mm,
And this prosecutor said, 7 people in the same week, it's just too much. He couldn't cope. So
mm,
they flew under the radar of that. And the latest research in the UK um, about active euthanasia, um, sorry, assisted suicide,
mm,
suicide. Uh, of all the people that were interviewed, who questioned, 14% said they would definitely assist in the ending of life.
mm,
31% said probably they would help. 16% that probably wouldn't,
mm,
and definitely not 13%. Those that didn't know was 27%. So basically, the UK is split right down the middle.
mm.
45% to 55% of yes, yes, we would, and no, we wouldn't. Which it'd be interesting to know what
Mm,
people think about this. You know, uh, I'm not suggesting that everybody should run off and look for assisted suicide. If anybody's got depression,
yeah,
they should look after. They should go and find out.
yeah,
In the UK, it'd be Samaritans or something like that. To try and organise themselves.
mm,
Um, but they have it. It's a subject that's been going on for quite a while now, and
mm,
like I said, in the UK, it's even the Brexit, you know,
mm.
was more or less in the same terms here. You know, um, really, really split down the middle.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, I'm listening. I've read a bit. I've even seen the suicide machine in a museum. So yeah, I've got a picture of it somewhere. Um, it is a. I'm personally against. Yeah, this taking of life deliberately. I mean, okay, we talk about different other things. Again, I've spoken about my faith in the past, what I believe there. Um, and yeah, the other side of it all is if you start saying this person died, that person died, and where does it stop? I read, and I've actually talked about it, of a case of a woman who pretended to be a man for a year, not 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 like this, literally dressed as a man. Yeah, okay, she had her own sexual, she had a sexual orientation, but to see, to prove otherwise that men had it easy, and she decided that men had it hard and felt really depressed about it. Um, and yeah, eventually she went to this place that assisted suicide. Now, as you say, mental illness. There's got to be ways to deal with this. Now, I know, again, this is a big subject. Mental illness does exist. Yeah. It's been overplayed a bit. What's the difference with being extremely fed up and depressed and everything else? Yeah, we can argue what that is. We're not psychologists on that. Um, yeah, I mean, it's a very, very. I think it's a slippery slope to start going down. We're allowing people to make the decision. Now, the other side of it is, I used to work on the railway, in the railway industry. I've seen the aftermath of people that have decided to
Step
directly
out.
directly take the option. Um, what you have to realise is just not them that gets affected. Okay, it's family, but there's the poor people, the poor driver on the front of the train, people like me who walk past the remains of. Yeah, it's not very pretty when you see sometimes a train has hit somebody. Basically, um, yeah, I can let your imagination do it. Go with that. Um, so again, yeah, it affects people. Um, yeah, I mean, there may be my attitude is we got the options to keep people alive. If we can keep people alive in under normal practice with a degree of good life, okay, we're not in a situation. We've all had relatives who the end is there, and you can see it, and obviously the doctors have spoken. Unfortunately, yeah, we'll take the pain away, but that's about all we can do. Yeah, or as much of the pain as possible sometimes. Yeah, okay, that's a bit different. That's going with dignity as well. Um, but that's not even assisted suicide. The end is nigh. Um, it's keeping someone alive when they are probably dead on ventilators, again, on life supports, is probably not an ideal situation to be in. There is a case in the UK at the moment, again, this is a slightly different thing, as we discussed, of a young lady, 19-year-old, who's who's yeah is mentally there. She's quite happily. She's got quite a severe illness. She's quite happy to go out, leave the UK, go somewhere else to do experimental procedures. Her attitude, I believe, is okay. She knows it might not work. It might help other people after her. At least her life and her death won't be in vain, and that's been refused. Legal cases and everything. Yeah, I mean, this is all going around at the moment. In essence, I don't believe in it. I've always have had this big issue with it. I think it's a slippery slope to go on. I'm not influencing anyone else, and please, yeah, this is a personal opinion. I'm not telling anyone how to think. Um, it's awful when you do see people suffer. I can only imagine that people who have watched their loved ones go through agony, wishing it would end. Maybe the people themselves do. Yeah, if you're in pain every day, if you're getting up every day.
But I think in all these cases here,
Mm,
Mark, the decision was made
mm.
by the person
Yeah, this is what
who's going to die,
yeah, this is the point I'm getting to.
and
Yeah.
prolonging somebody's illness,
Mm,
where they get to a stage where, of course, there's no coming back.
mm,
It's extremely painful,
mm,
and so the doctors could ask the family what they want,
mm.
but it isn't necessarily what if the patient is not in a position to say what they want,
Yeah.
you put that burden on other people,
Well,
and,
unfortunately,
and so you'd have to ask yourself if that was fair.
well, yeah. I mean, sometimes they do get the person will say themselves when I'm going, yeah, please don't resuscitate or whatever the term is. Um, yeah, I mean that's the point I'm getting to. It's getting a long way there, but I'm thinking of other cases in here that I've read and know about. I mean, in the UK once it was actually illegal to commit suicide, and
Yes, yeah.
from a religious point of view,
I
um,
believe that I believe they hanged you, didn't they?
well, I don't think
If you didn't succeed, they took you to be hanged.
well,
What?
there were cases that suicide cases were actually buried at crossroads with a stake through their heart, so they didn't become vampires or werewolves or something. Yeah, I mean, it's a people have always been scared about it. Um, I'm not a big supporter of it. Um, yeah, I mean, people can all have an opinion. At the moment, yeah, it's a big thing. Like I said, on the one hand, I do sit with my faith that there's only one entity who can theoretically who should be just making that ultimate decision, has given us the ability to preserve life, good life, whatever it might be. Nothing. The world isn't a perfect place. On the other hand, yes, I've seen suffering, and maybe we have to know sometimes that somebody has decided that's it. I can't keep going like this. My life is not worth it. Somebody who's got mental issues, I do believe, is wrong. Um, you said the case of epilepsy, and that's whatever else. I mean, again, it's not life threatening. There are ways of controlling it. Hopefully, in the future, there will be ways of controlling it. Yeah. This is what we've always got to live in hope. We've always got to live in hope. And the minute we lose that as a species, we're done. And I honestly believe that. And
I think in this case of this couple going, I think that he had, like I said, he had epilepsy. She had diabetes.
mm,
I think her diabetes was quite bad,
yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm not
and
dismissing it. Yeah.
I think it was her more than him,
Mm,
and I think that he must have thought, well, if she's going to die,
mm,
so am I.
yeah.
Let's go together, sort of thing. You know,
Yeah. I mean,
like a bit like a lover's leap.
yeah. Well, okay, fair enough. They decided something together. Um, okay. Anyway, uh,
But it was a decision that they made,
it's
right?
an interesting discussion, and I thank you for raising it. Okay.